with Council's webcasting of Council meetings policy. The recording will be archived and made available for viewing at any time on Council's YouTube channel for a minimum period of 12 months. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, if you are in attendance in the public gallery, you should be aware that your presence may be recorded. Your continued attendance means that you agree to being recorded and also that you will abide by the Council's adopted Code of Meeting Practice. The chairperson or general manager have the discretion to interrupt the recording of any meeting at any time should it be deemed necessary. This may occur in circumstances where commentary is considered to be misleading, defamatory or inappropriate to be published, or where behaviour breaches Council's adopted Code of Meeting Practice. Councillors and senior staff are reminded that this meeting is being live streamed, and for the benefit of those viewing online, please ensure you use the microphone when speaking and turn it off when you are finished.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Could I ask all who are able to please stand for the prayer and acknowledgement of country. Almighty God, give wisdom to those in authority and guide all peoples in the way of righteousness and peace, so that we may share with the justice, the resources of the earth, work together in trust and seek the common good. Amen. I'd like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri people and recognise the strength, resilience and capacities of Aboriginal people in this land. You may all be seated. General Manager, apologies intended by audio-visual link.
Mr Mayor, I have no apologies.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. We move to confirmation of minutes ordinary council meeting 18th for June 2025. Item 1, councillors could have a move and a seconder. Councillor Pryor, Councillor Gulliver. Councillors, any discussion? Yes, Councillor West.
I'd just like to refer to attachment 6.1.1 of the minutes, in which item 2 is setting councillors in remuneration at the maximum level for the category of entities to council, which this year was recommended a 3% rise. I am about to ask, send a letter, send a memo to the financial director, requesting that I don't get that 3% rise. I think in the current climate of backwards and cash-strapped situation, that it would good for councillors to demonstrate that they too acknowledge the need for, if you like, restraint, financial restraint, and so I want to propose that maybe other councillors might consider doing the same.
Thank you, Councillor West. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 2, confirmation minutes, extraordinary council meeting 24th of June 2025. Councillors can have a move and a seconder. Councillor Underwood, Councillor West. Councillors, any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to declaration of interest. Item 1, declaration of interest. General Manager, do we have any declaration of interest?
Mr Mayor, I've received no declarations of interest.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. We move to the mayoral minute. Item 1, interfund loan from sewer fund. I'll move the motion. But councillors, I'd like to move my mayoral minute, put for a make a adjustment to my mayoral minute to put forward a greater clarity of expansion in to read as follows. 1, councillors note the information be noted. 2, an interfund loan of 4.5 million was drawn down from the sewer fund. Item 3, a further report on the FAG payment schedule will be provided to the Financial Sustainability Committee, and the committee will then be asked to provide further advice to the council in regards to the loan, that is, repayment timelines. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor Cranston.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, for bringing this back before council tonight. That was at my request through the Financial Sustainability Committee meeting. As you know, this has been a topic of discussion, and I felt that the community needed better transparency around what had been agreed to. I think you've just highlighted perfectly why it needed to come back, because that is definitely not what was agreed to at the financial sustainability meeting. So, I'll just carry on with what I had prepared to say, which is that, as you know, the Financial Sustainability Committee is an advisory body only. So its resolutions are obviously not binding. So this was an appropriate and necessary next step to ensure clarity and accountability. Additionally, we now have updated information of a circular. Interestingly, it was dated in June, was not made reference to at the July meeting, but we now know the timings of the FAG payments that will be forthcoming. So it's interestingly appropriate now, in my view, that those timings are now reflected back into the mayoral minute, and this was a perfect opportunity to do that. So for me, this is our opportunity to ensure that the interfund loan is treated as the report intended, a short-term cash flow measure, as some of us believed we were voting for on the night, rather than an open-ended rolling facility with repayments open-ended over the next 5 years. So I just want to foreshadow that I'll actually be proposing multiple amendments tonight. And in the event one doesn't get up, I have multiple to go so that I can, so that we can ensure there is greater transparency, because we all know now what's on the table. Is it a short-term measure? Is it a long-term loan you're after? Which one are we voting on tonight? We know the FAG payments. We know they're coming in August, November, February and May. So they are the next 50% of the payments that will now be forthcoming. And I'd like to get it on record whether councillors are voting tonight for a 5-year loan or a short-term cash flow measure. And I'm disappointed, I guess, that we sat in a financial sustainability meeting, Mayor Taylor, Councillor Packham and myself. Councillor or Deputy Mayor Fry was on leave, I believe. You were overseas at the time, better than being in cold Bathurst. But we sat there and we agreed to what the intention of that initial June report had been about. It had been about a short-term cash flow measure as per the report. We sat in that room, we debated an appropriate motion that I acknowledge is not binding, which was why it was appropriate to come back tonight. So I am disappointed to see that that is now being changed again. I believe that that is not in the spirit of what it was intended and in good faith. So if I can propose, is now the appropriate time to propose an amendment, or what's the... Yep. Great. So essentially, it's pretty much the same, that the information be noted, that council formally adopts the Financial Sustainability Committee's recommendation to draw down from the interfund loan an amount of $4.5 million to be repaid back to the sewer fund upon receipt of each quarterly FAG instalment as detailed in Circular GC 154, issued by the Office of Local Government, 24th of June 2025. And number 3, any proposal to extend the term of the loan beyond the receipt of the final FAG instalment, May 26, will need to be approved by council. And number 4, that any proposed use of the remaining $500,000 loan balance must be subject to a future report and resolution of council.
Could you read that for us, Mr. General Manager?
So I've got that. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, that's all right.
That 1, the information be noted. 2, council formally adopt the Financial Sustainability Committee's recommendation
To draw down the interfund loan an amount of $4.5 million. to be repaid back to the sewer fund
Sorry, just interfund loan of 4.5 mil, yeah.
to be repaid back to the sewer fund
Yeah.
upon receipt of each quarterly FAG instalment as detailed in Circular GC 154.
For any proposed use of the $500,000 loan balance.
Any proposal to extend the term of the loan beyond receipt of the final FAG instalment.
Sorry,
This is number 3.
okay, sorry. Sorry, I haven't got any number 3.
Any proposal to extend the term of the loan beyond the receipt of the final FAG instalment. I thought you were really good at shorthand, Dave.
Beyond the receipt.
Of the final FAG instalment
Yeah.
being May 26, will need to be approved by council.
Yeah.
And that any proposed use of the remaining 500,000 loan balance
Loan balance, yeah.
must be subject to a future report and resolution of council.
Yeah.
That it? If you could read it, thanks, Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I need a second.
Oh, seconder. Yes, Councillor Wright.
Mr. Mayor, I have the motion on the table as moved by yourself with a amendment moved by Councillors Cranston and Wright, which is that 1, the information be noted, 2, Council formally adopt the Financial Services Committee recommendation to draw down the interfund loan of $4.5 million to be repaid back to the sewer fund upon receipt of each quarterly FAG instalment as detailed in Circular GL 154. 3, any proposal to extend the term of the loan beyond the receipt of the final FAG instalment being May 2026 will need to be approved by council. And 4, any proposed use of the remaining $500,000 loan balance must be subject to a future report and resolution of council.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion. Yes.
So essentially this amendment locks in the financial sustainability recommendation, including now known payment schedules for when. So when we were speaking last week, there was still the unknown, albeit the circular is actually dated 24th of June. That's interesting. So 24th of June, your circular is issued, but the Financial Sustainability Committee were not aware of that fact, or certainly I was not aware of that fact when we were discussing. And so what was implied in that meeting was there would still be another big drop of funds being up to the balance of the 85%, and then there would be future repayments. So this is about clarity and discipline, and it's about locking in what we agreed to at a financial sustainability level, which was, in my mind, the purpose of the establishment of that committee. So councillors need to be certain that this loan will be repaid promptly. If it's for a short-term cash flow measure, let's own it for what it is. and promptly repay it from the FAG instalments. Any future use needs to come back before a council discussion. This ensures the sewer fund is protected and that the arrangement is as per the report, a short-term cash flow measure that many, many councillors thought they were supporting in the June recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, so I guess when I first saw this mayoral minute come to us, I was concerned and I guess it's kind of ironic because I'm very much in support of these additional measures around the loan, but it did actually concern me to see the Financial Sustainability Committee resolved to, because I didn't understand it to be a sort of a binding decision committee. And whilst I disagree with the decision of councillors on the night to approve the loan, this would kind of mean that we have like a little defunct committee that can go and override the decisions of what was the wish of councillors, which was to proceed with that loan. So I actually had concerns around that, but it's good to know that we can raise this as an amendment. So fully supportive of that. I want to reiterate the 3 councillors who supported this resolution. It is now just being clarified in that mayoral minute, pretty much word for word. And if anyone's not familiar with the circular that went to councillors, this was received via email on the 24th of June, and it clearly stipulates the first quarterly instalment is expected to be paid to councils in mid-August 2025, with subsequent instalments November 25 to February 2026 and May 2026. Now, we understand this loan that has been agreed to is under the terms of quarterly repayments, and the good thing about the resolution or the recommendation of the Financial Sustainability Committee meeting is that what they resolved to do actually aligns perfectly with those quarterly payments of both the FAG and in line with how we will need to repay the loan. So we'll receive the FAG in August, and the Q1 repayment on the loan, of course, will be due September. So it's perfect. We've got that nice little leeway. The addition of the point 4 that proposed the use of the remaining 500k loan balance, this is just to reiterate a conversation that was had with the General Manager in the lead up to, I think that was the rescission motion meeting, which was we had concerns obviously around how use of the loan would be facilitated and what for, and how would that be prioritised by council. And it was explained that a report would have to come back to the council for any additional use of funds in that space. So that's just to get, of course, on the record that is what we intend to do. So I'm fully in support of the amendment, and I hope to see the support of the Financial Sustainability Committee meeting, because that would be odd. But if not, then we'll certainly go through the motions with further amendments. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further discussion? Councillor Packham.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Question to the interim finance director. The $4.5 million, how does that get us out of strife in terms of staying in a positive balance in the general fund? And how likely is it that we dip into a negative balance prior to the August general meeting?
Thank you, Mr. Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the situation is being monitored closely. We believe that there is potential for it to dip below into the negative. Hence, we were initially saying that this would be a buffer. Hoping, of course, that doesn't happen, but unfortunately, it's a potential issue that we believe needs to be made available and known to the council. So that's where we sit in terms of our interpretation of where things are going. We do believe that there is a short-term issue because by August we'll get significant rate payments paid in. So there would likely to be a time when things will return and be back into a positive black position. Not that we are expecting that there could be, yes, potentially some times when there is a likelihood that this could happen, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Mr. Pack.
Are we at risk, and same question, interim director, is there a risk that we would need to potentially come back to an extraordinary meeting if you need to redraw on the other $500,000 prior to the fag hitting or the rates drop?
Mr. Director.
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor, without saying whether we may or may not go into a deficit situation, it would be my intention that if we needed to use that $500,000, that the position is that it requires a resolution of the council. And if necessary, I would call an extraordinary, and based on if there was an urgent need for it, I can do that within 24 hours.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I suppose just a question to build on what Councillor Packham has just asked to the Interim Director of Corporate Services and Finance. In your view, is there risk in having such rigid terms such as what this amendment states in regards to the changing economic environment for our council? Does it carry less risk to have more flexibility, which is what I believe was intended in the original motion?
Mr. Secretary.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we believe that we would want there to be less risk as possible, and therefore, yes, the answer is we would want that to happen, correct? And yes, so we do want to have that buffer potentially to be able to get through the next little period, which is a period where, as I said, July is potentially a period where this has got some implications because of the less income likely to be coming in, as would normally be the case in a period up to, say, the end of August, which is when the instalments are due. That's the major concern we have, yes.
Thank you, Councillor. And yes, Councillor Wright.
Can I
Question?
just...
Question?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, question. Can I just confirm that we're forecasting a $5.8 million unrestricted cash position for the next month? Because that's the statement of investment seems to indicate that we've got a forecasted rates drop of $12.17 million. I mean, I'm assuming our forecasting is pretty rock solid by now. Yeah, so I'm actually seeing quite a cash liquid position for July and August.
Next Interim Director.
Mr. Mayor, that is the situation we're looking at. The position would somehow end of July. We're still only in the middle of July, so there's a period where we believe that there could be some need, as I said, to have a buffer. Our figures for the $5 million, they are assuming land sales, they are assuming things like how many
Rates.
ratepayers would pay their rates early. So they are just an assumption about where we think we would go to. We think it's a healthy position, which is great. However, in the meantime, there's potential that we will have some issues about position, and we thought we need to make sure we have that. And hoping, but again, there are things that are just outside the control of that. So just cannot guarantee that this will be a $5 million exact result. It's not possible to do.
Thank you for that figure. Yes, Councillor Wright.
Yeah, so of that revenue, 811,000 is what we're forecasting for land sales. It's July 6 million for rates revenue, August 12 million for rates revenue. Whilst I recognise land sales are very unpredictable at the moment, our rates revenue isn't. We would know year on year. We can analyse this every
question.
Yeah, so my question is, are these cash forecasts correct? Because I am not seeing, the question is our rates and annual charges revenue forecast based on year data that we would have since the beginning of this council as to how our ratepayers pay their rates? Are these stats reliable for rates and revenue?
Interim Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we believe that they're based on sound assumptions, but the issue really is that we really cannot determine, whilst we might have figures for cash that was received in July last year, we can't go to the extent of going through and working out what days in July we receive that money. So it's a broad brush best value assumption about what it is we will get to the end of July in, but the interim period until the end of July, yes, we just cannot forecast everything down to the last day. It's just not possible.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
And so I guess my question then might be, is the rigidity or the non-flexibility that's referred to in this amendment, is that purely, so through you, Mr Mayor, perhaps this is one for Councillor Underwood, is the rigidity referred to item 4 because that's the only additional measure and that's really just a decision around an extra 500k? I'm not understanding the rigidity comment, if Councillor Underwood could elaborate.
Yes, it's up to you, Councillor.
In relation to item 2, so council formally adopts the recommendation to draw on the loan to be repaid back to the sewer fund upon receipt of each quarterly FAG install detailed in Circular GC 154.
Thank you, Councillor Underwood. Councillor, and there's a reason for the, yes, Councillor Cranston. Yeah, sorry. Reason that I made those changes to my Mayoral minute was to give us that flexibility in case those rate payments don't come into it. It just gives that bit of a buffer if we need to keep that 4.5 million in a loan floating, so we can just cover it. We do want to go into the red again. Yes, Councillor Cranston.
So we're talking about a buffer for 12 months. There's a buffer there of a certain amount of millions of dollars there for the next 12 months. We've just heard, so sorry, this is a question. So how long a buffer do you want?
Well, we'd be looking at about 6 months.
And we've got that with the proposed amendment that's on the table.
The reason being, though, in case we don't get the funds in that we're projecting, that we have that buffer there that we could rely on, which is a recommendation from the local government New South Wales that we take that loan. Yes, Councillor Wright.
Can I please ask what has changed? Like, is there material information that has become available to the Financial Sustainability Committee or to you, Mr Mayor? What has changed since it was the resolution of yourself, Councillor Cranston and Councillor Packham to specifically align repayment of this loan with the FAG repayments? Why has that changed? That's, I guess, the part I'm just not understanding.
Right. After conversations and looking at the possibility that there could be a possibility that we still may go into the red with the rate payments not coming into what's projected and the payments coming in not projected on the land sales, it just gives us that buffer that we still got that money there, that we do not want to go into the red. We do not want a letter from improvement order from the local government New South Wales. So that was my decision to change that Mayoral minute to those points. And yes, Councillor Gover.
Rates are, council's revenue, obviously, but what's the situation with how many that we've got overdue, like a debtor? How much are we still chasing that never comes in on time? Does anyone know that figure? Because it adds up to millions of dollars. I don't know, but I just wondered what's overdue.
Interim Director.
Through you, Mr Mayor, the usual figure at the end of the year is 6% of rates and charges not being received, which is a fairly decent attempt to receive as much as we can. So that's likely to be the position at the end of this year, end of June last year.
Okay. And what do we do to collect that? To chase it up?
Mr General Manager.
Through you, Mr Mayor, sorry, I'll just interrupt because the Director wouldn't know the history. Certainly we employ agencies as debt collectors to chase those amounts owing. But one of the policies that this council has and has had for a long time, which will give a slightly higher percentage than some others, is that we do not actively pursue outstanding rates on pensioner properties. Some councils will. This council doesn't. It's been a practice of this council since before I came here. So that will account for a portion of it. Now, one might say, well, why don't we actively pursue them? I think, having not been on council at that time, I generally think it's looking at trying to alleviate pressures on pensioners in their own homes if they're having financial issues. Secondly, the money, if not paid, accrues an interest charge on it. And the interest charge, I think, currently would be around 8-9%, I think. And the third thing is the rates are a lien on the property. So no matter what happens with the owner, we get the rates. So that's what my feeling at the council of the time. 6% industry target, if memory serves, is around 5%. But as I said, ours will be slightly higher because of that practice of not pursuing pensioner outstanding rates. Sorry, Mr. Director, but you wouldn't have had that history.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Okay, we heard the amendment. Yes, Councillor Packham.
Given the potential risk of falling into the negative again prior to the rates coming in or the FAG grant, we would have a reporting responsibility if the general fund goes into the negative to Office of Local Government.
Mr. General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we would, and we would, as we did last time, we reported to them as soon as we could when we went into the red last time. But yes, all councils would have that obligation to report if they went into the red.
So I guess if we were to report that we had gone into the negative again, and the Minister's office has suggested that we utilise the $5 million loan, what's the implication of them coming back to say, we actually told you to do that and you didn't take any notice of us, and now you're coming back again?
Mr. General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know whether I'd want to have a guess at what the implication of that would be. I mean, certainly the department would be wondering why, if the loan we took would have kept us in the black, why we wouldn't utilise that. As to whether it would generate any specific action from the department, I don't know, because they're wanting to look at this council's response as a whole, not only just with the loan, but everything else we're doing in that space.
Councillor Wright.
I just want to be really clear here that we are talking about this. We have already drawn down the loan, right? Your mayoral minute actually states we've already done that. So that's happened. The money's in the account, right? Yep. Good. So item 2 has nothing to do with drawing down or having the money in the account. That's already done. We've drawn down the loan. This is purely stipulating a repayment plan, right? It's just saying publicly, this is how we're going to pay the money back, right? So my question is, firstly, is that correct? And I got that nod. So thank you so much. That's what we're talking about. The loan's been drawn down. My question is, if we're not going to pay it from the FAG repayments as is being debated right now, where are we going to repay that money from? Because I have real concerns as to, so are we on track? So firstly, where are we going to repay it from? Secondly, are we on track to receive, so we've currently got 811,000 for July and for August and for September for net gains from sales of assets, right? We would know by now if we've sold land and that we've got money to drop for those months. Do we have money to drop for those months for land sales?
Mr. General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll leave that second part for the Director, but I think what I am seeing from the debate on this is the issue of allowing the flexibility so that we don't go into the red. And that appears to be the argument as to how much flexibility we want and how much the council. My position as General Manager is you should take as much flexibility as you can within the scope of what's been provided. But in saying that, and I think both the motion and the amendment clearly require further reports to the council. The Mayor's one is suggesting that the committee be asked to provide further advice. They meet fairly regularly as to the repayment timelines. So I'm only just answering the bit to do with flexibility. As the General Manager, my encouragement would be to go to the greatest level of flexibility, and then we see how the things go, and that will be rates revenue, it will be land sales, it will also be where we can cut expenditures.
Okay. I will now put the amendment. Yes.
Through you, Mr Mayor, if I understand the question correctly, there was a request to ask how much land sales we are coming up. There's 2.5 million gross, I believe, in industrial, which is earmarked for September. 2.25. Thanks, Mr. GM. 2.25. That's in September, unfortunately. I haven't got in front of me the number of residential land sales that might happen in the next while, or earmarked to be settled by the end of August. But there isn't a lot, I know from the list. But we could get back to you and give you that information if you needed that in more specific terms. So I hope I've answered the question.
I now, yes, Councillor Cranston.
Yeah, so I understand, Mr Mayor, your point about wanting a buffer, but let's be clear that wanting a buffer was not what we approved in June. We approved a short-term cash flow strategy in case the FAG didn't drop. Yes, there was always the issue that the letter to the Office of Local Government said something completely different, and that's been many councillors' problem with the whole original motion since word go. The two were in contrast to each other and they needed clarity. Or the other potential is it was ambiguous for a reason. So we didn't discuss it. That's not what we discussed in June. It was a short-term cash flow measure. It's not what we discussed at the Financial Sustainability Committee. At that meeting, the recommendation is a short-term cash flow measure. What this amendment is doing is tying what's already happened. We've already drawn down the loan. It's tying that new loan on top of the $25 million loan that we've already got from the same source. It's tying the new $5 million loan to known repayments. So
Okay.
this amendment ensures two simple things. We've only drawn down what we needed and we have a way to repay it. So if there's ever a genuine need for more later, we can come back to council and ask. If this is not a one-off cash flow measure, let's call it what it is, that this is a $5 million loan that the executive want as a buffer for the next 5 years, even though we've got our our interim director saying it's a short-term issue, potential buffer for a little period. So it's just in complete
Thank you.
contrast to what was agreed to.
Thank you. I now put the motion for the amendment. Sorry, the amendment. Yeah. Now put the amendment. Those for the amendment. Against. Lost. I now put the motion for the Mayoral minute. We just. Oh, what was the other amendment?
So number one, that the information be noted. That
Yes.
number two, council does not adopt the Financial Sustainability Committee's recommendation and acknowledges that repayment of the interfund loan is not being tied to receipt of the financial assistance grant instalments. And that, so that's number 2. Do you need that repeated?
Council President, the council not adopt the Financial Sustainability Committee recommendation, and then I list the words up to then.
And acknowledges that repayment of the interfund loan is not currently tied to receipt of FAG instalments. And number 3, a further report outlining how the quarterly loan repayments will be made, including contingency plans in the event the forecast land sales do not materialise, be provided to council. Yeah, and at the very least, I hope number 4 would still stand, that any proposed use of the remaining 500, which is the same as the preceding one, any proposed use of the remaining 500 loan balance be subject to a future report.
Need a seconder? Yeah, need a second. Thank you, Councillor Wright. Now, Mr. General Manager.
I think there's 1 or 2 words. That the information be noted. 2, that council not adopt the Financial Sustainability Committee recommendation and acknowledges that repayment, that with repayment of the interfund loan, I missed something here, and acknowledges that repayment of the interfund loan, you didn't have with, that repayment of the interfund loan is not currently tied to the receipt of FAG instalments. 3, and this one I think I've missed the word in, a further report outlining how the quarterly loan repayment will be made, including contingency plans if land sales do not materialise, be provided to council. Is that covered enough? Okay. And 4th, I just went back to what we had before, which is any proposed use of the remaining $500,000 loan balance must be subject to a future report and resolution of council. Okay.
Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Cranston.
So this one's about really being transparent. If we're not willing to tie repayments of this new loan to the FAG instalments, let's at least be honest and upfront about that. We know that the forecast land sales are a key pillar of the budget, and if those settlements don't materialise as we've projected, we're going to be carrying this loan for an extended period of time, noting a large chunk of those remaining sales are already committed to paying the $25 million loan that we already have. So this amendment basically ensures transparency and accountability so that there is no misunderstanding that this is a loan for an extended period of time, 5 years, and as yet we don't know how we're paying it back.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, it really is the bare minimum, isn't it? Gosh, it shouldn't be so hard. So we're acknowledging that we're rejecting the Financial Sustainability Committee's recommendation, and in fact members of that committee are rejecting that. We're not tying it to a known revenue stream. And I guess I just want to highlight that all this is really stipulating now is that we would like a report to just let us know how we're going to pay it back. I would think at the bare minimum of what we swore an oath to do, which is responsible financial management of our community's hard-earned cash, the least I think we could do is ask how we're going to pay back the loan that was approved by the councillors. And as I said, and this is the weird thing about this, is that I've got the actual cash forecast. Every councillor has access to this document. And it was always very weird to me when I saw in the statement of investments, for every single month of this cash flow forecast, we have the same dollar value of incoming cash for sale of assets. So that includes land sales. We've got the exact same dollar amount every month. That's not how cash flow works, actually. And we know it's not how it works. We only need to look back on, we are in the business of property development, right? We've been in this business for quite a long time, actually. We would know that that's not how cash flow works. You don't just take the total amount of money that you want to make in a year, divide it by 12 and say, oh, that will do. But that's what we're doing. And I sit here, I'm luckily not working at the moment, I sit here and I go over these documents. We don't even actually have a cash flow document that combines the capital cash flow, that combines the cash budget, so that's operational and capital. We've got a summary document that doesn't include half the information we need. And then we've got the budget. That's the plan that's underwritten by the cash flow documents. And I sit here and I go through these documents all the time. I actually know most of the numbers off by heart with these documents. I'm not an accountant. I've never owned my own business. I've run businesses. But I sit here and I go, how is it that it is me and Councillor Cranston raising these issues month after month after month and getting looked at like we are the problem? Like we are right now from the Deputy Mayor nodding his head that yes, we are the problem. Sorry?
Out of order there, Councillor.
Oh, it's all right. People would have seen it on the camera. So all I want to say is, no, we're not the problem, and people need to get past their hatred for us and the hard work that we're doing and recognise this is what sound financial management looks like. So I would hope that we can request a report outlining how we're going to repay the loan. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor. Yes, Councillor Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question, will repayments from the loan be made from the financial assistance grants?
Thank you.
Will the repayments for the loan be made from money that we receive from the financial assistance grants when we get them?
Where practicable, yes. But as the idea of having it as a buffer, and yes, the ideal is that it would be paid back from the FAGS grant, and I agree that was my understanding, the original intention. I wasn't here for that meeting in June, but the purpose that I've spoken as the General Manager, that I'd like to see the flexibility is that we don't know exactly what's going to happen. The councillors are quite right. You don't know how the land sales are going to go. You don't know definitely what the pattern will be with rate payments. So having that money there is a risk prevention factor. The issue that it's a 5-year loan has been clearly approved, if that's the period we want. And I would say that the Mayoral Minute, which asks the Financial Sustainability Committee to come back with a report to Council, will discuss repayment timeframes. As the Mayor has in his notice of motion, he put in repayments example timelines that will provide further detail to this council for it to make its determination into the future. But definitely it is fair to say that as General Manager, I'd like to see the flexibility.
Thank you, gentlemen. Councillor Cranston.
Say that the Financial Sustainability Committee has already given a direction on how this is to be repaid, albeit in the space of a week. other conversations I've had that have happened to change people's position on what that repayment plan was going to be.
Mr. General Manager.
I think it's fair to say the Financial Sustainability Committee has made a recommendation. It does not have the delegated authority to make that decision as a final idea, but certainly that recommendation, and that's why that was included as detail into the mayoral minute, so the full council could see that. And in the end, as with the proposal, and I totally agree with the 500,000, if anything happens there, then that will require the full council to make a decision.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Yes, Councillor Underwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it's obvious that we operate within a complex, ever-changing, moving financial environment, and our executive are telling us that they need the flexibility. I find point 2 of this amendment restrictive in the fact that it's asking us to acknowledge that we will not be making repayments from the financial assistance grant instalments, when indeed we've just heard from my previous question that we will be.
Thank you, Councillor Underwood. Okay, I'll now put the amendment, second amendment. Those for? Against? Lost. Council will now put the mayoral minute amendment. Those for? Against? Carried. We'll move to item receive the General Manager's report. Item 1, Central New South Wales Joint Organisation Board Meeting, 29th of May 2025. Councillors could have a mover and a seconder. Councillor West, Councillor Fry, councillors, any discussion? No discussion, I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Council now moves the Director of Environmental Planning and Building Services. Item 1, Section 4.15 of the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979. Councillors can have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Fry, Councillor Cranston, councillors, any discussion? No discussion, I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move the general report. Councillors can have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Gulliver, Councillor Cranston, councillors, any discussion? Councillor now put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 3, inspection conducted by Fire and Rescue New South Wales of Ridges Mount Panorama, Bathurst, SP 79080, 1 Conrod Street, Mount Panorama. Councillors can have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Orban, Councillor Packham. Councillors, any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 4, Economic Development Quarterly Report, second quarter. Councillors can have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Gulliver, Councillor West, councillors, any discussion? Councillor Cranston.
Just quickly, this is a great report and it does give us a clear snapshot of the local economy and how it's tracking. It is encouraging to see steady growth in some areas and ongoing efforts to support businesses and the CBD. As we look at the CBD data, though, I think it's important to ask what action is the economic development team currently taking to address the challenges we're seeing. Vacancies are edging up again and retail share of the CBD continues to decline. So have we engaged directly with local real estate agents or other stakeholders to better understand what's driving this? And you can answer that question. I also know there's a CBD master plan in place, and I have to admit that I do need to brush up on that. So I think it would be helpful to have an update on how the master plan's being implemented, along with CBD developments in this kind of retail space. At the same time, interestingly, the report highlights that 23% of renters and nearly 7% of mortgage holders in Bathurst are under housing stress. Combine that with CBD vacancy rates creeping up and it raises questions about overall business confidence in the region. So I guess I'd like to make sure we're confident that the right strategies are in place to turn these trends around. Also, do we know the vacancy rates and business mix compared to, say, similar regional towns like Dubbo, Mudgee, Orange? Some benchmarking would be helpful, and again, if this already exists, it'd be great to be pointed towards that. But basically the report is a strong foundation and I think it would be really valuable for councillors to have a briefing on the development team's current strategies and planned initiatives so we can see how this data is being turned into action on the ground.
Mr Director of Environmental Planning.
Through Mr Mayor, happy to provide councillors with briefing notes or any other matters that we can provide. I can cherry pick some of those points and perhaps come back to you with more detail, back to all councillors. Not many other councils conduct vacancy rate surveys. Bathurst has led regional New South Wales in doing so. We have received recent data from Orange, and all regional cities are showing strain in the retail occupancy. To be properly benchmarked, we'd have to make sure the methodologies was the same, the scope, the footprint of comparisons were the same. And may I suggest that it's not only the province of the ED team, that's a 2.6 person team, but certainly the whole of the planning department, and certainly some of our strategic planning and some of our initiatives that we're trying to do there. The development assessment team looking at infill development to try and increase resident population in the CBD, for example, trying to increase activation generally. So we will be able to come back to you with a more detailed expose of those sorts of initiatives, but it is hard work.
Thank you, Mr Director. Any further discussion? Councillor West.
Okay. I'd like to refer to the item in this report, the Bathurst Women's Network launch. I'd just like to say that I attended this event and found it to be very inspiring, a very inspiring initiative, and I want to congratulate the organisers and the panellists for their contribution. It was really good.
Thank you, Councillor West. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 5, Heritage Plan 2021-2024. Councillors can have a move and a seconder. Councillor Cranston, Councillor West. Councillors, any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 6, Community Heritage Plan 2025-2029. Councillors can have a move and a seconder. Councillor West, Councillor Cranston. Councillors, any discussion? Yes, Councillor Cranston.
Firstly, can I just say, sorry, that I do want to acknowledge the huge amount of work that's gone into these reports, the access to all the data and the submissions and you know, it was obvious that a great deal of time and care had gone into reading those submissions and taking on the feedback. And so I just want to acknowledge that, because it's nice to see people go to the effort of making submissions and then that feedback is actually considered, and you have to agree that it's not always going to, you're not always going to win some, but to see the consideration of that, I think was well done to the staff and the team. So the other thing that I asked for when this went on public exhibition was just around my concerns, and it's not specific to a heritage plan. It will be specific to any type of plans that we're putting forward, and that's regarding the costings. That's the world we're living in at the moment. So I just wanted to make that statement. So thank you again for providing the engagement process and the costings, and it's no small task to bring together all those pieces and actually really highlight what makes Bathurst unique. So when I voted to send that draft to public exhibition, one of the concerns I had at the time was around the cultural vision document and the destination management plan and how they're being used and whether either of these will be formally reviewed. So could I get an update on that as part of this discussion? And I also just want to highlight a couple of points that I feel just need highlighting, just so that we avoid any unintended consequences down the track. Excuse me. So my first question is, can I have confirmation that the plan is advisory? And if that is the case, what does that look like as far as in general practice? Because we do know that once something like this is referenced in pre-lodgement meetings or DA assessments, it can quietly start shaping decisions, even if it's not a statutory document. And so at that point, it doesn't really become advisory anymore. My second concern is the references to building heights and density. Those were always in the draft, and I do think we need to be careful here. If council want to have serious conversations about height and density control, I believe that deserves a process all on its own and frank community discussion. I think it's really important that we don't almost bury it inside a heritage document and then treat it like it's already been decided. So I'd like to understand how staff make sure this plan stays as advice and doesn't turn into soft policy, and particularly just an update on the cultural vision document and when that might look to be reviewed.
Mr. Director.
Through Mr. Mayor, yes, it is a strategy. It is not a policy. There are policies which are informed by it. The statutory instruments that you allude to are the LEP and the Development Control Plan, so they do have provisions which relate to heritage. So there is a hierarchy of weight that's given to those sorts of documents. This is a strategic document. It is a setting. It is expected to be considered, but it is not statutory in that sense. Building heights and density, if I can add a comment there, I accept that comment, that if this council wants there to be a review of building height and density provisions in the statutory controls, then that can be done if resources are allocated to that purpose. The heritage plan document that you have before you suggests that would be a good thing. I will defer to others to speak to the other ones about the destination management plan and the cultural vision, Mr. Mayor.
Yep. Yes, Dan, Acting Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so to both of those points, the destination management plan, the process was commenced in mid-2024 with industry consultation. Unfortunately, the actual finalisation of the plan was a victim of staff shortages, not least my own transference from manager tourism to acting director capacity, and the lack of backfilling of some key positions within the tourism team. There is funding available in this year's budget to complete that piece of work. The timing on the back of the finalisation of the community strategic plan will actually add value to it. To your second point, the 2017 cultural vision, as I've actually flagged previously, it is due for a refresh. The document was intended to be a guiding 20-year vision, but a number of the actions have been completed and it is in need of a refresh and upgrade. That will require funds. There is no current identified source of funds for that within the budget.
Thank you, Acting Director. Yes, Councillor Cranston.
Sorry, just to confirm, we've now got a heritage plan that references two documents that are about to be updated. When that happens, obviously there's nothing inside the heritage plan that then refers to old things that are now out of date or no longer exist in the new plans. It's like that whole which comes first, you know, the whole chicken or the egg argument. We're referencing documents that are due for review, and I'm just trying to get a clear understanding of how that will work in practice.
Yes. Neil?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and my colleague may also wish to speak. In the sense of both of the documents referenced, so the DMP and the cultural vision. With the DMP, although the actions themselves will be revised and changed, the underlying brand elements to which the heritage plan speaks are actually a separate document. So the brand identity of Bathurst is one strategy, the destination management plan is another, basically the what and the how of tourism. So in large part, the document will continue to be relevant. That said, as you say, as every document is updated, there's always going to be some cross-referencing and some obscurities. It's just the nature of the beast. The cultural vision will be very much in the same criteria. And as I said, much of it remains relevant. It's a question of a refresh, not a start from scratch with that particular one.
Do you want to?
I'll probably use an example. So inside the cultural vision document, there are some very large expenditure capital projects. If a new version of that document chooses not to go ahead with one of those, which one is the heritage plan actually going to go, no, we want that one because that was in the old one when we adopted the heritage plan? Does that make my point clear of what I'm trying to just get an understanding of?
Mr. Director, Environmental Planning.
Yes, it does. And this is a general comment about where you have a suite of strategies or plans, that if one references another at a particular point in time, if the other is amended, is changed, is reviewed and adopted in a different form, then you can take this plan to refer to its successor plans. That they being the most recent adopted position of the council today.
Thank you.
Could I just,
Yes,
could I
Mr.
just
General
add one other, there is always one other control as to what gets carried over, and that is the council's got to make the budget. So anything could be in any plan, but if the council, as part of its DPAOP process, decides not to include something, then it doesn't matter what is the recommendation. The hardcore comes down to the budget.
Thank you, Mr. General. Councillor Fry.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and probably just a question to the director. To Councillor Cranston's point, surely it's an evolving strategy. If something as instrumental as the LEP is revised in, say, 2 years, whenever it is, whenever we allocate funds to do so, we would need to significantly revise or update this heritage plan through a process that would come back through a reporting system for council.
Mr. Director.
Yes, and just to expand further for the point of clarity, that if there is a substantial change to one plan which affects the integrity of another, and again I'm speaking generally, then in adopting the significant change, that should be done understanding what the consequences are to everything else. And so there will be consequential amendments to other instruments.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Gallagher.
To the Director of Town Planning, has the inquiry we're getting more inquiry about multi-storey buildings in town now?
Mr. Director.
Mr. Mayor, I won't say we're overrun with inquiries, but they are regular. And certainly, generally speaking, the trend is to increase densities in existing serviced and built-up areas. There are some economies to not just the developer, but to council in that as well by servicing and so on. In other words, getting the balance right between forever expanding the footprint of the suburbs and creating greater density in existing built areas is always a challenge for every council.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for, against, carried. Move to item 7, New South Wales 2025 National Trust Awards. Deloyne 200 years of reagri resistance. Councillors can have a move and a seconder. Councillor Underwood, Councillor Fry, councillors, any discussion? Yes, Councillor Underwood.
Mentioned this when it was hot off the press. The last meeting, maybe I just said a couple of words. It's great to see that in this report. And I just want to congratulate everyone involved, council and to the elders, for putting on such a significant event which has just received national recognition. Well done to everyone involved.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for, against, carried. We move to the draft Villages Strategy 2025. Councillors can have a move and a seconder. Councillor West, Councillor Underwood, councillors, any discussion? Councillors now put the motion. Those for, against, carried. Council, we now move to the Director of Corporate Services and Finances report. Item 1, Statement of Investment. Councillors can have a move and a seconder. Councillor Wright, Councillor West, councillors, any discussion? Yes, Councillor Wright.
Yeah, so where to begin with this one? At the end of the day, these high-level financial documents, whether it's the 3-month forecast, the full investment report, are only really as reliable as the inputs, assumptions and data that feed into them. And when I look at this document in context, I'm struck by just how quickly things can shift. In just a single month, council's position can move by multiples of millions of dollars. That's particularly true in a financial model like ours, where a large proportion of revenue is front-loaded. Rates income arrives in big bursts, while expenditure patterns are far more staggered and uneven. So when you start comparing this investment statement to the other documents all councillors were recently provided, thanks to inquiries made by Councillor Cranston and myself, like the cash budget, the capital plan, the multi-year forecast, what becomes clear is that there are major dependencies in play. If one assumption is off, like a land sale that doesn't come through or a grant instalment that arrives late or after the expenditure has taken place, it creates ripple effects across multiple layers of financial planning. And if those ripple effects aren't being captured and reflected across all the documents, well, we're not governing off a true or timely picture. I reiterate, Bathurst Regional Council has a cash flow problem, not a revenue problem, not a problem that's driven by lack of assets. So whilst I welcome and appreciate the inclusion of this 3-month snapshot as it's a start, what is incumbent upon us as councillors is to interrogate the assumptions sitting beneath this forecast and the documents that feed into it. Are they still valid? How are the changes in the capital program or project delivery schedules feeding back into this view? So I've now reviewed all of the documents available to me that relate to council's forecasted cash position, and across 4 separate cash-related documents, we're being given pieces of a puzzle that never join together. The cash forecast shows static balances. The cash movement spreadsheet shows activity but doesn't update the balances. The operating forecast provides monthly breakdowns but never maps their effect on cash. And the investment statement shows how wildly our real position swings, but only after the fact. So my concern is this: there is no single document in this budget process that shows how cash flows across the year with opening balances, net changes and closing balances. And we wonder why we find ourselves scrambling to take out loans as we approach 30 June just to plug a deficit because a grant payment didn't arrive when expected, or the truth of the matter, which is that land sales didn't materialise. And we haven't just had the 2 years since the SRV debate to get this right. We've had 7 years. How, you might ask? Well, because we've known about this structural problem since FY19, when the profit from our land sales ceased to be enough to plug our operating deficits. Since FY19, we have run this business at operational deficits averaging $11.8 million, including the profit from land sales. That's in comparison to the 7 years prior, which saw operational surpluses averaging 4.2 million. And just as a side note, to highlight how disjointed this process is, in the cash movements document, bracketed numbers are income, but in the forecast summary, bracketed numbers are losses or reductions. So that's a direct reversal of standard practice, and we are being asked to interpret both as part of the same budget. Further to this, when we look at the capital program, what should be the cash flow forecast that underpins this entire structure of budgetary documents, firstly, we have a $40 million budget where not only are some capital projects omitted entirely, most outflows are based on the total cost of the project divided by 12 or 6 or 3 months, split evenly. And that is not how cash flow works. I understand that building a consolidated cash flow model is a big beast, one that actually joins all of this data, and it would take time and specialist skill. But that's exactly why we need help. We are a council in financial crisis trying to justify multi-million-dollar loans at the last minute and capital projects with tools that could barely cut it in a small business. If we can't map our cash flow month by month, we cannot manage the risk. And this isn't a staffing issue. This is a systems failure. And I think it's time to bring in professional support.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Cranston.
Again, I'll just thank you for taking on that request of getting the forecast into this report. It's acknowledged and appreciated. We spoke at the financial sustainability meeting about having the the sewer fund loan set as a separate line item in the restriction, albeit it would be internally restricted. Given the other changes in that space tonight, can I confirm that that is still the intention, that that will be shown as an internally restricted item, and therefore it will be very clear if we dipped into negative funds, because that amount won't be included inside the forecast. The other question that in review of all those documents is the net profit on sale of assets, and we did put a call through today just to try and get clarity on that, because we've got an income statement that in my mind accurately reflects net profit on sale being sale price less cost, but inside a cash flow we've got the same net profit. Now the cash flow should be the sale value, albeit there will be not necessarily just land sales, but the two shouldn't be the same. So I'd like clarification of which one it actually is. And the other, so obviously if that's correct and we're only accounting for the profit inside their cash flow, that's actually a win. Great, happy days. We're actually have understated our revenue that we're expecting, our cash in that we're expecting. But again, it just highlights a problem inside these reports that we've been presented, and whether there's confidence in the data that we've been given. So essentially my two questions were, is that restricted sewer fund loan going to still show, and is the net profit, is the net gain on sale of assets profit, or is it the sale price of the asset?
Mr. Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that we will put the sewer loan as a separate item from next reports, Councillor. And the issue of the cash versus the gross figure, which as I understand is what you're saying is a projection in some of the forecasts that have been produced. I understand, and I've been able to ascertain that there's been some conservative estimates made of the cash position through the council reporting, through the council budgeting. And what we believe we need to do is maybe review the projections and provide this information later on. But it's reasonable, the increase in construction costs and fluctuations in market conditions has meant that the council, in preparing the budget, has needed to do a conservative estimate of its cash position. However, what I need to do is just review the projections, get some more chance to go through the numbers and provide some information back in the due course when it's available.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Councillor Cranston.
Question is, we've got a document in front of us with the cash budget of essentially $800,000 in net gains from disposal of assets for July through to June, the same figure month on month. Is that profit, or is that the sale price? And we would already know, being now midway through July, what the anticipated sales have been and the likelihood of things settling up until, say, September. Have those sales been reflected, or sales or lack thereof, if they've been included, have they been adjusted in these forecast figures that are in this document? Because that seems to be the big thing. We keep forecasting for sales that just aren't coming.
Mr. Director.
I understand the question is the figure for the net figure for sale, a profit on or extra on surplus on sale of an asset, is that figure including the amount, is it the gross amount, or is it the net amount? So in other words, is it the income figure for the received versus the cost or the book value of the figures in the balance sheet of projections? So I'm not exactly sure which report that is, but what has been produced in a report, which is the recent report, which I think has been a reviewed report, reviewed format, that's been prepared within finance in the last little while. I believe that figure has got some that figure of $811,000 has got some, the actual figure, the profit on the sale has maybe got to be included in that number. However, I need to go back through it and work out the nuts and bolts of those numbers to be able to come back to you to work out what it is that is the actual position, so I can do that in the near future. Take that on notice.
Take it on notice. Thank you, Councillor Cranston.
Probably just a quick statement is we did try and to clarify this. It's not something that we've just hijacked tonight and put you on the spot. I was hoping to have that answer, but obviously not.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Yeah, I just have a few questions. So on the so the 3-month cash flow forecast that we've got a snapshot of here, that's from a larger document, number 4 forecast that we all got around mid-June. And I can see the columns that have been pulled out. There's just a note at the bottom, and again, when we're talking about cash flow, this is just so important, the assumptions. It says, note, income has been assumed, so that's an assumption, to match expenditure for most projects, not matched to the actual milestones. This might be a question for you, Mr. Director of Engineering. Could someone please explain that assumption with relation to, let's say, capital projects?
Yes. Mr. Director.
Through Mr. Mayor, I'll start off. So a number of the projects that are funded through grants. Some of the grants and milestones are loaded, so we get a cash flow immediately upon signing of contracts, acceptance of tenders and the like. So we tend to have a cash positive grant, if you like, in front of the expenditure. And so that's, for instance, the water harvesting project has typically been cash positive. So we've had the grant up front, typically, for every milestone before we've expended it. Other grants, such as roads, they can be neutral, so we get them around about the same time of expenditure. Doesn't always occur, but in terms of the note, I'll certainly defer to the Interim Director for a further comment.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Any comments, Interim Director? Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Yeah, thank you for that. So what I'll ask then, because you've just stipulated, we know that some projects, the grants don't come in alignment or before the expenditure. So can I please request that a document be provided, because the document that I've got, capital, works and real estate, it doesn't actually have the cash flow drops of grants that are associated to these projects and when they fall. So either it exists or maybe I just don't have that document, I'm not sure. But perhaps I can arrange a time with you, Director, that we can actually ascertain whether A, the document exists, or B, make sure that we're adding that to the forecast.
Yeah, Mr. Director.
Through Mr. Mayor, absolutely happy to meet for sure. And certainly a number of capital projects within my department, but not all. And so it might be more appropriate that if yourself and myself and the Interim Director of Finance meet to discuss the way forward with this, but happy to do so.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Any further discussion? Yep. Question?
Just because I want to make sure, because I don't know if it actually got noted before, but can it be taken on notice that I want a very clear answer as to the net gains disposal of assets, which we've ascertained we need to know, we have had a conversation about that, but can I please have confirmation of A, are we on track for the July, August and September drop of revenue that's stipulated in this document? And then B, if there is an updated forecast for the remainder of the 12 months, can I please have that on notice that I would like that document as soon as possible, please?
Councillor, yep. Mr. Director.
We're working on something, as I mentioned, thank you, and we will provide and meet to discuss some of those aspects with you in due course. We're happy to do that. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Councillor West. Oh, no. Oh, it's on. Don?
Okay. Could I request that any of these documents that are being requested by individual councillors get supplied to all councillors,
No, certainly.
please?
Thank you, councillor West. No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 2, monthly review 2024-2028 delivery plan and operational plan 2024-2025. Councillors, can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Pryor, Councillor Underwood. Councillors, any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 3, Sundry Section 356 donations, Bathurst Memorial Entertainment Centre, Community Use Subsidy and Mount Panorama Fee Subsidy. Councillors, can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Orban, Councillor Cranston, councillors, any discussion? Councillor Notice, oh yes, Councillor West.
Yes, I want to refer to,
I'd like to refer to page 823 of the appendices, which I have to find myself. Sorry. I think it's there. It is there. Okay. I've raised this before in briefings. This list of market rental subsidies, in general, appears to be a really good list of organisations to subsidise. For instance, the Bathurst District Historical Society or the Meals on Wheels. Those are valid organisations that we all recognise do good. The RSL, there's an RSL band.
Community band.
Yep. But those are already good. The one that I want to question is the community op shop, which we subsidise to the tune of almost 40,000 a year. It's not a recognised organisation, one that we can see is national or statewide. It is more or less a private enterprise. And I'm wondering if we do ever receive a report from the community op shop as to the benefit it provides to the community. It claims to be a charity, but my research shows that it hasn't submitted the required documentation to the appropriate body for several years. And, yes, ACNC, thank you, for several years. And I do wonder about the property value. It's quite possible when we're looking at assets that we could sell, that would be in a prime location and may draw interest from possible purchasers. So I would like to put on record that I think we need to investigate more closely that particular organisation, given that we are cash strapped and it's costing council an estimated $40,000 a year.
Thank you, Councillor West. Mr. Gentleman.
Mr. Mayor, I probably need to put a reply in there on that. The property, as far as this council's concerned, is run by a group that has the appropriate registration. As to whether they fill their documents in or not, to be honest, is a matter for the Department of Fair Trading, as long as we know that they are registered. The second thing is the property, and we're probably talking the building property, is not available for sale. It was a property that the council acquired under the voluntary acquisition scheme. Traditionally, those buildings are bulldozed, but due to the heritage nature of that building, the building was kept there. So it can't be sold. If we sold it, we'd be returning money to the state and federal governments. Whether someone else is interested in going in there, and I'm pretty sure, and I'll have to get the director to get property to check it, I don't think we've had much response in that location. And also, Mr. Director, we'd need to check that what the status of the veggie patch land is, because I thought that had been relocated with another community group because the op shop pulled out of it, that location. So there's two properties. There's the one where the building is, and then there's the building where the market garden is. My understanding was that the market garden wasn't under the op shop anymore.
No.
And so we'll need to research that.
Take it on notice.
But definitely the building is in the floodplain and was purchased under the voluntary acquisition scheme.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Wright.
Yeah, I just think that we should, not single out any groups because, gosh, there's so many registered groups that haven't submitted their financials, like the Australian Milling Museum, for example. We shouldn't single people out for that if that is the case. And also I would suggest that if we are ever going to go down that path, then we should certainly review all of the recipients of that just to make sure that it doesn't look, targeted or just anything like that is just my comment. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 4, power of attorney. Councillors can have a move and a second. Councillor Orban, Councillor Gulliver. Councillors, any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 5, questions taken on notice. Councillors can have a move and a seconder. Councillor Gulliver, Councillor West. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor Wright.
Just a quick thanks for this one. So I've actually had a couple of people reach out to me from the community who've just been appreciative of often when you get up and speak and you can lose track a little bit or anyway, actually there were comments made when the Deputy Mayor was running the meeting when he actually took note of what questions people asked during their speech and made sure we came back to it. That was commented on, and then it's kind of replicated in this document. So far feedback I'm receiving on this is really positive in the community. And actually my dad thanks you for his response in regards to, so good job, guys.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 6, code of meeting practice. Councillor can I move in a second. Councillor Orban, Councillor Fry, councillors, any discussion? Councillor West.
I would like it to be noted that I don't agree with the removal of the policy meetings or the general business section, which is contained in this report, that will have to go. And I'd like to also confirm that so that everybody understands, and so that I understand as well, my assumption is that putting this document on up for public consultation means that the whole of the document is actually up, not just the changes, so that if people have comments on the document that don't relate to the specific changes, that's okay too. Is that correct?
Yes. Mr. General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the whole document goes on exhibition for commentary, and there may be changes outside of those suggested, whether they're adopted or not, because putting it out on exhibition does not say the council has adopted those positions at this time. But yes, some of the feedback may suggest other amendments. The council can determine if it wishes to take an option with those amendments. If they were a really substantive change, but I've got to say, given that we have to largely adhere to the statutory guidelines, I don't think we'd have that. But if there was a significant change, then the council would probably throw up whether it needed to go on exhibition again. But to be honest, you're so tied around what's in the code. But yes, definitely no decision has been made by the council as to any changes at this time. Yes, the document will go on exhibition and everything is on exhibition for comment.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Any further discussion? Councillor Wright.
My question was just from someone in the general public. It was just in regards to Minister Honig's review of the Code of Meeting Practice that he put out. Submissions closed on Feb 2025. And the question essentially was, why are we putting this out on public display if potential changes are going to come from the minister? I had a look online and actually couldn't find any sort of firm recommendations that have come from the minister based on those submissions. So just for my own clarity, I want to confirm that that is the case, and that there's not, you know, another public exhibition that we would have to go through potentially based on minister's feedback. That kind of.
Mr. General Manager.
Yes, it's safe to say that we haven't had any advice from the minister for any changes. He had his discussion paper and it revolved around code of meeting practice, but also code of conduct. In terms of the code of meeting practice, there has not been any directed changes. If they do come through and they are significantly different, then yes, we will have to address the code. But we have a statutory obligation to consider it within a certain period after the election. So my comment to you is we need to get it out there. If the minister did changes and the changes weren't seen to be significant, then a report would come to council to vary the code, but recommend not to go on exhibition, because we only need to put it on exhibition if there are significant changes. So I think that's the way that we can only handle it. And I think it's fair enough to say to anyone who's asked you, no, we haven't had any directives out. B, we've got a statutory obligation to review the item and see if there were changes that needed to be done, then we would handle it under one of those ways.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Yes, Councillor Packham.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Look, I've had a couple of people contact me that had particular concerns about this document, and I explained to them that it was just out for public consultation. They had particular concerns around the civic statement, and they felt that that was quite unnecessary. I've redirected them back to a submission through feedback to the council.
Thank you. Councillor Packham.
Could I say, and this is probably something that needs to be said to the community, things like the welcome to country, the prayer, the civic statement, particularly the civic statement, is only just an example. And in fact, the council is likely to look at that wording, because my intention was to get something in there speedily so that it was out in the discussion space. But certainly those people should put submissions in, and the council laws themselves, if they wish to, may wish to put a submission in.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Yes, Councillor Cranston.
I guess just to reiterate that point is that I'm actually supporting this going on public exhibition for review and community feedback, not necessarily supporting at this point anything that's in the document. I'll be looking forward to hopefully getting, you know, significant feedback on this, much the same as we did in the Heritage Plan. It's nice to see that level of community involvement and feedback. So, you know, there's some big shifts inside the document, removing policy meetings, shortening speaking times, still not live streaming of public forums, recording every councillor's vote in the minutes. I, for one, would think that anyone that's interested in council will be a huge time saver to be able to search a document rather than have to go back and watch a YouTube video to find out how a councillor voted on a certain issue. So that certainly is one that just, you know, from my own personal experience, that I can fully support even without community feedback. And that said, I don't think the community feedback would really have a significant impact on that one decision. So I'd just really encourage people to have a look at it and make a submission. Tell us what they think.
Thank you, Councillor Cranston. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 7, Alternative Delegate Finance Sustainability Committee. Can I have a move and a seconder? Councillor Fry, Councillor Packham. Councillors, any discussion? Yes.
The motion needs to be moved if it's Councillors Fry and Packham as to whether they wish to nominate an alternate delegate or not. I suppose that's the first question. And the second one, who is to be nominated if the answer to the first question is yes, they wish to nominate.
Yes, Councillor Fry.
I don't know what Councillor Packham's movements are on this, but I was going to nominate Councillor Underwood. I think it's a good use having an alternate, especially when we've tried, well, we failed to get quorums sometimes. Could be useful to have a backup, for sure. I don't know if you agree.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Councillor Cranston, sorry.
Can I just nominate Councillor Wright? I think she showed time and time again her level of knowledge in this space, and given it is a financial sustainability committee meeting, the contribution she makes meeting after meeting just speaks for itself.
Thank you, Councillor Cranston. Councillor Gulliver.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I'd be happy to second Councillor Underwood.
Thank you, Councillor Packham. Councillor Orban.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I'm not going to nominate anyone because I think the Financial Sustainability Committee is an absolute waste of time. We can see what happened here tonight. No one can agree. You know, the whole saga of you know getting us into the black by 30th of June was because we all agreed that we would pay the loan back with the FAG, which is not happening, and it's obvious it's been a directive from the executive into this committee to change the whole situation. I just don't get it. To me, to be quite honest with you, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of the executive's time being in these meetings because no one agrees with anything. I honestly think it should be ditched. It was a pseudo committee that was made by council just to appease the OLG. That's all that was. I reckon we should be calling in a forensic accountant firm to go through this place and get it right. This is not going to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Orban. Any further discussion? No. Mr General Manager.
Through you, Mr Mayor, maybe because we've got two
delegates,
delegates
yep.
that are suggested that perhaps it would be, and Councillors Fry and Packham, that it may be that council hold a vote for the position of alternate delegate by the method of open voting, so a show of hands, and then we get their nominations and you put your hands up. That'll stop any, trying to amend, and because it's pretty hard to amend on a.
Yeah. Councillor Wright, Councillor Under, would you accept the position? You would. Councillor Wright, you'd accept the position?
Yeah,
Sure.
Sorry.
Does the motion now specifically reference that Councillor Underwood and Councillor Wright? Because I just want to check because Councillor Packham only said Jack Underwood. Yeah.
No, we'll verify it in a minute. Yeah, the wording. Yeah, when we have a show of hands. How are we going?
Oh, I'm getting there. I'm just writing the whole thing down.
Righto. Mr General Manager.
Through Mr Mayor, yes, if councillors Fry and Packham are right with this, what I would have is that council hold a vote for the position of alternate delegate to the Financial Services Committee and conduct an open ballot, so just a show of hands. And then we would, under that, go the following nominations were received in alphabetical order: Councillor Underwood, Councillor Wright. And then the minute would then have, on being put to the vote, the following votes were received: Councillor Underwood, whatever; Councillor Wright, whatever. Out of that vote, then councillor whoever is declared elected.
Thank you.
Is everyone happy with that?
Everyone clear?
Oh, Sustainability Committee, yep.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Wright. Yeah, great.
So if that is the wording, then I guess I would probably call this as a point of order, which is that I wish to raise a procedural matter in accordance with Clause 10.2 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice and Clause 5.16 of the Model Code of Conduct. I've recently become aware that Councillor Underwood is now the employee as Executive Assistant to Councillor Packham. Now, if that is accurate, I believe this constitutes a significant non-pecuniary conflict of interest due to the closeness of their working relationship. And if so, it must be formally declared in accordance with the Code. A non-pecuniary conflict of interest exists where a reasonable and informed person would perceive that a councillor could be influenced by a private relationship when carrying out their official functions. In determining significance, the Code requires consideration of the closeness of the relationship as defined by the nature of the friendship or business, the frequency of contact and its duration. I reiterate that Councillor Underwood is allegedly employed in what is arguably the closest role to a CEO possible, that of a personal assistant. So I do request that both councillors formally disclose this relationship if it's true, because I actually can't be 100% sure. And if deemed significant, that Councillor Packham recuse himself from participating in this vote on the alternate delegate to the committee. I'd also like to put on record that regardless of the vote outcome, I do not believe that it's appropriate that Councillor Underwood be considered for this role. Her employer already serves as a delegate on this committee, and in any governance setting, it would be considered a clear conflict of interest for both an executive and their PA to hold voting or oversight roles on the same committee. The risk is not just one of actual influence, but of perceived undue influence, which undermines public confidence in the independence of our decision making.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Packham.
Yeah, the information is not accurate. Councillor Underwood is not employed as a personal assistant or an EA.
Thank you, Councillor. No further discussion? How we proceed, Mr General Manager?
Through you, Mr Mayor, you put it to the vote. Show of hands. Alphabetical order.
Alphabetical order,
Councillor
thank you.
Underwood, then Councillor Wright.
Okay, all those for Councillor Underwood to be the alternative delegate? All those for Councillor Wright to be delegate? Councillor Underwood declared the delegate. Thank you. Okay, we move to item 6, Gravity Media Bathurst shoot for New South Wales dough refund. Councillors can have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Underwood, Councillor Fry. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor West.
Sorry about this. I'm just wondering, it's not clear to me whether this is a fee or whether it's a waiver. The recommendation is that council waive the location fees, but the financial implications are that the request could be funded from council's section. So I'd just like clarity on that. And the other thing is that I'm wondering whether it shouldn't be the Department of Education who pays the fees rather than the media. Have they approached the Department of Education for funding for this, given that they're working for the Department of Education?
Right, who's going to answer that one? Dan?
There's a letter in the attachments through you, Mr Mayor,
Yes.
about what they're requesting, which might clarify the issue of whether they've been to the department. Because, well, actually, I think it looks like the answer would be because they believe that the Department of Education was not commercial in nature, they want council to waive the refund. So I don't think they've been approached. Although they are, sorry, Mr Mayor, through the first line does say that the permit fee for filming conducted by Gravity Media on behalf of the New South Wales Department of Education at Mount Panorama, apologies, that they, looks like they've been
Waiver fee.
made some, yes, it's, yeah.
Thank you, Mr Director. It's a waiver.
Through Mr Mayor, it is the waiver of the fee. So there's a charge to do that. What they're seeking is that council waive the charging of that fee. And the report is suggesting that, yes, waive the location fee, and that will be funded out of the 356 donations, because the revenue as such needs to go to the Mount Panorama operation because it's our commercial type operation.
Any further discussion? Yes, Councillor Orban.
Yeah, they're using our prime asset to push the New South Wales public school student talents. I think Department of Education should cop up for it, or Gravity Media, one of the two. We should not, I repeat, not be giving them anything back. They should be paying.
Thank you, Councillor Orban. Any further discussion? No further discussion. Put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Council, we now move to the Director of Engineering Services report. Item 1, Water Harvesting Stage 2, Funding for Design. Councillors, have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Orban, Councillor Fry. Councillors, any discussion? Yes, Councillor Cranston.
Sorry, just to confirm, we're up to, water harvesting. Yeah, okay. Just when there was no discussion. So essentially we're being asked to pull $700,000 out of our own reserves for stage 2 of the water harvesting scheme. And this isn't even for construction, it's just to do the design. So from where I sit, the problem is that the state government have said no to funding. We're being told instead to give up Bathurst ratepayers' money. But if we do the work, we can actually resubmit to the state government and see if we can get it, and then that way we won't have to put up the 700 at all. So I guess I'm just curious as to why we're so quick to spend the community money when there's another funding option that's still on the table. And then it's the confirmation of how stage 2 is actually then being funded. It's a $15 million project. We don't have a clear plan for the construction, is my understanding. And if we start spending now, we're sending a signal that Bathurst will pick up the slack in this. I care about water security, of course we all do, that's not the issue. But my problem lies with using this emotional argument, and we repeatedly hear it inside discussions, that the emotional argument is used to justify decisions. In my mind, the responsible thing to do is to finish stage 1 properly, push harder on the state to pay for their share, and only then will we talk about spending ratepayers' money. And so for that reason, I'm not ready to support this recommendation as it stands.
Thank you, Councillor. Darren, any reply? Thank you, Mr Director.
Through Mr Mayor, look, the intent of this report is to, yes, the state government did not supply grant funding. That process took 6 months during the last round to get an unsuccessful. We have $700,000 worth of federal funds available to us that may be available, may not be. If a further grant is made to the state government, I don't know. I'm not sure it's emotional, but during the last drought, people really cared about the water security of Bathurst. And when Bathurst Council was forced with the potential of evacuating the city, it certainly put water security very much as a forefront, as a priority of this organisation. And it still remains a shortfall that we need to address. And so it's my recommendation to proceed because these projects take a long time to get going, especially when we're not in drought. So it's obviously to the councillors to make a decision on this, but it is an important part of our overall community requirements for an appropriate degree of water security that allows our community to grow.
Thank you, Mr Director. Councillor Fry. Sorry.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and I tend to agree with the Director of Engineering. I believe it's well within our remit of making sure that our citizens have a firm water supply, and that is our responsibility to put water in their taps, and that is why we have a fund that is solely allocated towards water assets and the payment for infrastructure like this. Always nice when we do get those government funds on top of that for large heavy infrastructure projects like we've seen in the past. We've been very lucky recipients previously. I guess to give a bit of confidence to Councillor Cranston, we've got, 4/5 of a letter drafted, a very complex letter to Minister Jackson, noting an absence of water infrastructure funding in the most recent budget, asking for a visit, and then asking for a reconsideration of allocation towards a number of water infrastructure projects. Last time she did say publicly she had the appetite to fund more water infrastructure projects in Bathurst. Then when it came to crunch time, seemed that she wanted to see the stage 1 complete before they fund anything else. But we're trying to articulate to the Minister that we can walk and chew gum at the same time, and we have to for the residents of this city. We know that people are building houses. We've got a home shortage. The New South Wales government are pressing upon us to build more and more and more to fix the housing crisis nationally. We're a part of that solution. Indeed, they've awarded us $20 million to get that started. We need to put water in those taps, and I agree, we need to put a little bit of money into it to make sure that we're trying to match potential funding we can get from any other source. And we just got to do everything everywhere at the moment in water security, because we are, alongside Tamworth, the worst risk rated in the state of New South Wales right now.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Councillor Cranston.
So here's a question, yep. But the lead in is that we're trying to show our community that we can walk and chew gum, that being that we can manage stage 1 before we spend more money on stage 2. So can I ask what the time frame would be for us to push back or reapply to state government with the information that they've actually requested?
Mr Director.
Mr Mayor, first of all, it would require a new application to a process of funding application that hasn't been announced yet. And they've actually do have the information because they've determined it themselves in their own report that Bathurst has got a risk of failure of 1 in 60 years of its town water supply. So they've actually got that information and they failed to take it into account.
Thank you, Mr Director. Councillor Underwood.
Yeah, I will say it is surprising that the state government didn't recognise the need here, given its own Macquarie-Castlereagh regional water strategy, and I believe that's where you've taken that line from. And just to repeat it, Bathurst has a risk of failure of its town water supply of 1.8% between 1 and 60 years. The Macquarie-Castlereagh regional water strategy is quite a sobering read for our town, but also for towns surrounding us. And it is important that we've got water to drink.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? Councillor Gulliver.
I recognise what Councillor Cranston is saying, but when it comes to the water, I think we've just got to get on with it. So I'll support it.
Thank you, Tony. Director, just correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the state government make an application for that funding?
Through Mr Mayor, the application was lodged by the state government on our behalf to the National Water Grid, yes, so they essentially have dismissed the application. It was not made directly by council.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Cranston.
So why is the state government saying they didn't have all the information?
Good question.
So where's the point of pushback on this? Like, we just go, oh, okay, like, what's the next avenue before we spend $700,000 worth of Bathurst ratepayer money?
Mr Director, or Mr Gentleman, Mr Director.
The funding application required us to spend $350,000 as a minimum anyway. So the request is for a further 350, not 700. Certainly take your point. We can push back and not progress with this and put our $700,000 that we've got from the federal government possibly at risk, and then reapply to the round 2 of the National Water Grid and secure additional funding through the state government. The application to the National Water Grid was for the full $15 million over 2 stages of what we estimate the construction cost to be as well. So stage 1 is for part A of the application. For the stage 2 of the water harvesting scheme is for the design, documentation and approvals, which requires a tremendous amount of water testing, which will, in our experience for stage 1, has taken over 2.5 years, 3 years for even the water testing for water quality alone. So it's a long process. And so the second part of that application won't be determined until Part A is done and the state and the federal government want to assist us with the big water secure issue. So it's over to council whether they decide to push back, whether you decide to push back or not. That's my recommendation, is to proceed given how long it takes to build these projects.
Thank you, Mr Director. Any further comment? Councillor West.
Can I just clarify that this 700,000 will be coming out of the Water Capital Reserve, which ratepayers have paid, but they've paid into the Water Capital Reserve for projects such as this? Is
Yes.
that...
Mr Director.
Mr Mayor, the short answer is yes.
Thank you. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for, against, carried. Councillors, we now move to the Director of Cultural and Community Services report. Item 1, 2025 Bathurst Writers and Readers Festival in association with the Sydney Writers Festival live and local, 21 and 25th of May 2025. Councillor, can I move in a second? Councillor Orban and Councillor Underwood. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor Underwood.
I just want to say what a great event this is to have in Bathurst. I'm a keen reader and I really enjoy this one. So congratulations to everyone that put it on for this year.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for, against, carried. Move to item 2, Bathurst Autumn Colours Heritage Festival Program 2025. Councillors can have a move and a second. Councillor Fry, Councillor Cranston. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor Fry.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and what a great program it was this year. Again, I was lucky enough to represent yourself when you were away in thanking these hardworking volunteers, of course, helped by our Visitor Information Centre team, but really this is an incredible, locally loved, locally led festival within the city that just helps bolster our calendar of events and little input from us, but maximal input from volunteers and community. I think it's a really, really a great testament to the community that we have in the city.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for, against, carried. We move to item 3, Museums Bathurst Ratepayer Vouchers 6-month review. Councillors can have a move and a seconder. Councillor Gulliver, Councillor West. Councillors, any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for, against, carried. We move to the Deloyne commemorative 200 years since the declaration of martial law, Local Government Professionals Australia Award 2025. Councillors can have a move and a seconder. Councillor Underwood, Councillor Packham. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor Underwood.
Say not one award, but 2. It really does highlight the gravity and the enormity of this event and what it meant and how significant it is. So just one more time, congratulations to all involved.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? No further discussion. Put the motion. Those for, against, carried. Move to item 5, Bathurst Heritage Trades Trail 2025. Councillors can have a move and a seconder. Councillor West, Councillor Fry. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor West.
So I just wanted to acknowledge that this amazing...
I just wanted to acknowledge that this amazing event was conceived originally by a Bathurst resident, Mr. Sandy Bathgate. It was his idea. He then, once he'd had a talk to the then director, Alan Cattermole, went ahead and found some other like-minded people. I think numbered among them was Christine Lefebvre and Steve Birrell. I don't know who else was involved. I do have those names. But I'd just like to take this opportunity to acknowledge that this really significant event in Bathurst was created by those concerned residents, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank them for their contribution to Bathurst.
Thank you, Councillor West. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for, against, carried. Councillors, we now move to the reports of other committees. Item 1, Financial Sustainability Committee reports, 12th of June 2025. Councillors can have a move and a seconder.
Mr Mayor, could I just ask for a change to one word? Rather than adopted, be noted, because there wasn't a quorum at that meeting, so it's just noting the minutes that were made, if you don't mind. I know it's a bit of technical, but if you'd humour me.
Noted. Thank you, Mr General Manager. Can I move in a seconder? Councillor Fry, Councillor Packham, Councillor, any discussion? Councillor Cranston.
Look, just to pick up on Councillor Auburn's comments, what went on here tonight, my previous comments, I have real concerns about the need for this, having sat in on them and now having had, what went on was, and I need it on public record, that what we agreed to in consultation, in debate, and then to have it come back before us tonight, and how that mayoral minute has happened yet again. For me, the Financial Sustainability Committee is a waste of time, and that hour-long monthly report could be scheduled into a briefing session where all councillors could be updated on things.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? No further discussion. Councillor West. Councillor Wright, sorry.
I'll just get the correct word. Sorry, there was a question I had about this. It was essentially around the land sales, and that it was discussed that we may consider like auction and different, I can't find the exact word, but essentially what was discussed around, I guess, to the fact that we're in a public meeting now, not a confidential one, but around land sales, auction, are we discounting further? And then the other question was the 9.7 million that we've got on the budget this year for those land sales. How many lots are we forecasting to sell this year? Yeah, that's it.
Ooh. Mr. Director.
Somewhere in the vicinity of 30 plus blocks, through you, Mr Mayor.
The other question was? Sorry.
No, that's okay. Just that it was noted that there was the word auction in here, and I'm just not finding it, but essentially it appears that there was a discussion around alternate ideas. It seemed like there was a bit of a brainstorm or something around land sales, and I just wondered if any of that could be... Oh, I'm so sorry, I can't find it. I've got a couple of things highlighted. No, it was just maybe, yeah.
Well, just to elaborate, I was the one that asked the question, had we explored other options on meeting the market, because, it's all about supply and demand and what that may look like. That was the conversation. If the General Manager wants to elaborate more on that, I'm mindful that it's a confidential meeting, so...
General Manager.
To you, Councillor, I was either on the cruise on the coast of Croatia or flying a balloon in Cappadocia, so sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, I was absent. Okay, any further discussion? Sorry, Mr. General Manager.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know whether the councillors want to address the commentary about whether the Financial Sustainability Committee should continue. I'm happy to keep continuing it, as it was a decision of the council. And I suppose it's fair enough to say that whilst there is frustration about the loan, I don't think any of the other decisions of the financial sustainability have created any disagreement or problems amongst anyone during the time that we've been meeting. We've probably met about 6 times. But in saying that, if the council wish to go to another methodology, which is, have a session at the working parties, whereabouts all councillors are, then that's something the council, if they were wishing to consider, could add into here if you wish to get rid of the finance, and put in that the recommendation be noted, and two, that the Financial Sustainability Committee be ceased and replaced by a monthly session for we won't put the time in there, but for an hour, presumably at the working parties.
Do you want to put that in tonight? Yes, sorry. Yes, thanks.
Sorry, just to write a reply on that. None of the other decisions were debated and formalised in a way that was essentially a motion that obviously, so there's nothing else that has ever been documented in such a way. It's more just investigate this or do this. Like in my mind, this one was very, very different. It was a directive, albeit it was not binding, hence why it needed to come back here in the form of a mayoral minute.
Mr. General Manager.
I don't disagree that it was different, but I think you hit it on the head where you said their discussions were look at this or do this. And there have been things such as, I mean, it's listed tonight, the EOI for the site out at, is it Mark Parade or whatever? Yeah. So there have been things that have been actioned. So yes, different, but there have been directions from the Financial Sustainability Committee that have been implemented. But I suppose all I'm just saying is if I'm happy to keep going with what it is, but if council's wanting to change the format, then it's a matter for the council to determine.
Thank you, Mr. General Manager. Councillor Wright.
Is that actually possible to bring, and I don't know if I'd need to raise that as a way, surely not an amendment to the adoption of minutes, but would I be able to raise that as a request that we bring that to a working party? And I'm so sorry, I actually got that wrong. It was executive officer, so apology. Congratulations on your new role, Jack. I think it's actually creating a bit of division in council, and I think it's really important that we do bring this to a working party and maybe do a little review of this committee and actually consider the life of it and where it might go into. Thanks. That's really
Thank
kind.
you, working party. Yeah, Councillor Underwood.
Look, I just want to address Councillor Wright's comments this evening in regards to how I conduct myself as a councillor within this chamber. You did get the title of my position wrong. You have corrected it. And whilst that was incorrect, it is true that I have gained other employment. That by no means means that I will conduct myself in any other professional way that I have in the past. If there is a conflict of interest that relates to my place of employment, I will declare that as I have previously. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Underwood. Okay, then no further discussion. Now put the motion. Those for, against, carried. Councillors, we're going to move to item 2, Traffic Committee Report, 1st of July 2025. Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor West, Councillor Packham. Councillors can have a discussion. Any discussion? No discussion. I put the motion. Those for, against, carried. Move to item 3, Policy Committee Report, 2nd of July 2025. Councillors can have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Fry, Councillor West, councillors, any discussion? Councillor, now put the motion. Those for, against, carried. Council, we now move to the councillors' delegates report. Item 1, minutes, councillors' meeting with community group representatives, 28th of May 2025. Council can have a mover and a seconder. Councillor Underwood, Councillor Cranston, councillors, any discussion? Councillor West.
Okay, nobody breathe. I just wanted to ask a question about the cemeteries and crematoria presentation that we received, and I'm wondering if Susie Hatherley has ever answered the question that I posed during that meeting, which was to inquire if there are any other councils within New South Wales that are affected as drastically as Bathurst Regional Council is on this cemeteries issue, and if so, could we be provided with their details so that we can discuss what measures they've put in place in terms of cemeteries and crematoria, and if she hasn't got back, can we make some arrangements to contact her?
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Director.
Yes, we've had that contact, and a number of councils have been identified to us that have control of cemeteries similar to ours. We've also made contact with those councils to better understand how they manage those facilities, and a final report's been collated and will be circulated to councillors shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Any further discussion? No further discussion. Put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Move to item 2, minutes councillors meeting with community groups representatives 25th of June 2025. Councillors can have a move and a second. Councillor Gulliver, Councillor West. Councillors, any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for? Against? Carried. Council now resolving the confidential committee of a whole to deal with confidential reports. Councillors, councillors, we are now due to go into confidential committees. Councillors, could I have a motion to go into confidential meeting of councillors? Could I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Gulliver, Councillor Underwood, Councillor, are there any members of the public and press who wish to make representation to the council as to whether the matter should or should not be dealt with in confidential committee? As there are no representatives, I now put the motion to go into confidential committee. All those favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Can we make sure the microphones are turned off, please?
Mr Mayor, councillors just met in confidential session and the following recommendations are provided. The Director of Corporate Services and Finance's confidential reports. Number 1, assignment of aerodrome lease 7 Windsock Way, Raglan. That Council A authorise assignment of the existing lease for 7 Windsock Way, Raglan, being lot 271 in deposited plan 11621007 from Messrs Pacini and Drummond to Whitmill Proprietary Limited, and B, delegates authority to the General Manager to finalise the lease assignment as detailed in the report. Report number 2, proposed communications lease part Sulman Park, Mount Panorama. That Council enters into a lease with CW Net Proprietary Limited for part lot 40 in deposited plan 1056379, being part Sulman Park, Mount Panorama, for a 5-year period with 2 options to renew of 5 years, and delegates authority to the General Manager to finalise the lease. Report number 3, proposed new aerodrome lease, proposed lot 2 being part lot 6 in DP 1262801. The Council A enters into a new aerodrome lease agreement with Mr Doug Milton for proposed lot 7 Hercules Close, being part lot 6 in deposited plan 1262801 for a period of 20 years with 1 option to renew of 10 years, and B, delegates authority to the General Manager to finalise and execute the lease as detailed in the report. Report number 4, rural licence agreement, part lot 103 DP 1006130, part lot 94 DP 879007, part lot 92 DP 865590, part lot 10 DP 872516, part lot 7004 DP 1002346, and part lot 7005 DP 1002346, known as Rankins Bridge Reserve. That Council A enter into a new rural licence agreement for part lot 103 DP 1006130, part lot 94 DP 879007, part lot 92 DP 865590, part lot 10 DP 872516, part lot 7004 DP 1002346, and part lot 7005 DP 1002346, known as Rankins Bridge Reserve, for a period of 3 years with Miranda Webb as detailed in the report and subject to Council's land management guidelines and insurance requirements as detailed in the report, and B, delegate authority to the General Manager to finalise and execute the necessary documents associated with this licence. Item number 5, registration of interest 56 Colville Street. The Council act in accordance with the report. Item number 6, Mount Panorama 5th event. That Council act in accordance with option 3 contained within the report. Report number 7, New South Wales State Emergency Service proposed Bathurst unit building location. The Council A, provide the land as required on part lot 2 DP 1185929 and part lot 1 DP 1242636 for use by the New South Wales SES for the purposes of constructing a Bathurst SES unit facility. B, agree to any required subdivision and consolidation of lot 2 DP 1185929 and lot 1 DP 1242636 as required at the cost of the New South Wales SES. Continue discussions with the New South Wales SES regarding the future use of the existing council facility occupied by the New South Wales SES in Lloyds Road, Bathurst. Director of Engineering Services confidential report 1, tender for the provision of traffic control services. The Council accept the tender from Work Control Operations Proprietary Limited for the provision of traffic control services for contract number 36.00857. Report number 2, tender for road stabilising works. The Council accept the tender from Stable Corp Proprietary Limited for the provision of road stabilisation work for contract number 36.00858. And report number 3, tender for the supply, delivery and placement of sprayed bituminous surfacing. The Council accept the tender from Fulton Hogan Proprietary Limited for the provision of sprayed bituminous surfacing for contract number 36.00859 at a cost of $5,289,900, including GST.
Thank you, General Manager. Take a deep breath. Councillors, could I have a move and a second to adopt the report of the committee as a whole? Councillor West, Councillor Wright. Councillors, is there any discussion? Councillors, no discussion. I'll put the motion. Those for, against, carried. Councillor, I now declare the meeting closed at 8:53 p.m. Thank you for your attendance. Can the recording please be stopped?